Welcome to the Top 20 Video Game Music Show, Take 2, after computer issues. But that's neither here nor there. We've had 10 different people, probably our highest amount, submit tracks to a difficult theme. This week's theme is Christmas. Cozy, jingle bells, winter, memories of Christmas video games you had. We all love nostalgia. The video game industry figured that out, didn't they? I hear they're going to remaster the latest remaster. Wow. Really? Great. I'm so excited. I'm going to pre-order it. It's been $150 on the Super Deluxe Edition. Thanks to Xenmas, Horky, Cyflan, ChiptuneBrony, Boss Steve, Longbow, Rudi, Claudio, Lachlan, and Chris for all of your picks. Our first track, let's hear it again. Everybody in the chat and myself have already heard the first couple tracks, but we're going to try this one more time. This is from The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter, composed by Jeremy Soule, who's worked on Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, and more. This was chosen by Xenmas. The main theme. Great Jeremy Soule, I said. It's nice because, you know, with the Elder Scrolls tracks, he tends to have to play things pretty slow and really build and really make them very ambient. And it's because the game is gigantic. People spend thousands of hours playing Elder Scrolls games and they don't even play the main story. There's a lot of places to wander. There's only so much music to go around. They really just slow it down, spread it out. So it's nice to hear him get to do something a little more kind of rousing. And it's a difficult thing when you're going to take on something like this because John Williams has already had his fingerprint on it. And, with the films. It's John Williams we're talking about. When you're talking about composers, famous composers, this is one of the biggest. And I think he does a really good job, Jeremy Soule, that is, with this game version. Making something that sounds like it could definitely fit in the Harry Potter world, but ultimately sounds like his own. And we're finding out that he composed the first Harry Potter game in 2001, so even before Morrowind, or right around the time of Morrowind. Pretty amazing. Here's another take on the theme. The Nutcracker going through Frozen's Ice Palace in a Souls-like game. Yes. Our next track from Donkey Kong Country 3. Not composed by David Wise, this time by Eveline Fischer. This is Frosty Frolics, chosen by Horky. Well, there we have. We're 2 songs in, and we have the controversy of, is this a Christmas track or more of a winter track? I think it has, there's kind of like the tinkly winklies and kind of the snare-like percussion I mentioned last time we tried to record this. That to me sounded a bit like, I don't know, the cozy wind of Christmas. But, I mean, in winter, Christmas does happen in winter. Unless you're Australian. But who knows about them? And, so I don't know. It's probably more of a winter track, for sure. It does kind of sound... For you, it's summer, Rudy? Where are you? I've probably asked you 4 million times. Near the equator. I think there's just enough kind of like whimsy and wonder in this track of like bum ba dum, bum bum ba dum, and kind of enough bell tones that it does sound like it has a bit of a Christmas palette to it. So, there we go. Next up, from Ragnarok Online, released in the PC in 2002, this is Silver Bell from the Izlude Christmas. This is chosen by Cyflan. So, if you've ever heard of jazz people say they're going to reharmonize something, that's this. Where it's like, have you ever seen that guy Jacob Collier? He's this British guy who sings in like microtonal things and like everything's like crazy harmonies. Like he did Moon River with I think like 1,000 guest vocals on it. It's where they've taken the original chords from the song and really just changed them all over the place. And sometimes I think it's really, really effective. Like when it goes ba-da-da, boom. That boom is not normally there, but it gives it this really kind of epic boom. No, ba, boom, boom. And then there's other times where it's like you guys are just sort of changing as much as you can to kind of show off and shred, which is fun too. Especially if it's in an online game and you're going to be listening to it a lot. And some people in the chat like the slow guitar. Big Boss Steve liked the slow guitar. I really like the electric guitar. I like the electric guitar. The electric piano. The way they just kind of like lean into that kind of shred. Kind of reminds me of Birdman from Pilowing 64. Very emotional melody indeed. A strong mother-child bonding moment. I like that. This is played in the Wintertown Looty in the game. That one too. It's Christmas time. Where they bring up the whole bass in the chorus. It's nice. It's actually very tastefully done. Oh, soon it will be. Boom, 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 boom. You don't expect that. Nothing to do but drink hot chocolate and watch the icicle go. All right, so our next one is not going to be any of those. It's from Battletoads, the arcade version, released in 1994. This is Stage 2, the Arctic Caverns, composed by David Wise. Interesting, because we just had a Donkey Kong Country 3 track that was not composed by David Wise. So let's see what he was doing in Battletoads land. Chosen by ChiptuneBrony. Crazy. You know, we were talking earlier about how, David Wise, he likes to do stuff kind of more vertically while other people are more horizontal. I'd say that this is kind of the most horizontal, as in, I'm going to go from here and I'm just going to go straight across. I'm going to do a verse. I'm going to do a chorus. I'm going to do riffs. But this is his way of doing that, which still has a lot of like crazy key changes and like chords just kind of coming out of nowhere. It's bluesy, but this is probably the most chords I've ever heard in a blues song. And he's really making a lot of use of that hit on the offbeat. And it's like very proggy. Pretty wild. And it's funny because earlier we heard a track and we thought, is this Christmas or is it more winter? And I'd say that he was supposed to do a theme for an ice cavern and he made a Christmas track. So it's the total opposite. Crazy. And we have another David Wise track coming up. This is from Diddy Kong Racing. This is Frosty Village. And it was chosen by Big Boss Steve, who I just want to thank for the generous tips you've thrown my way. Huge generous tips. They really mean a lot. I would do this without them, of course, but definitely is a nice motivation, and it's very helpful. So, cheers. This is your track from Diddy Kong Racing. Similar. Wow. Yeah, this is yeah, definitely the most Christmassy one we've heard. You have sleigh bells. The melody is very, very influenced by Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. Wait, is that Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree? There's a snowman. Oh no, it's influenced by Walking in a Winter Wonderland. Walking in a winter wonderland. And then he just kind of changes the end to be more bluesy. This is actually also very similar to his bluesy sound that he had on Battletoads, even though Battletoads was from 1994 and Diddy Kong must have been put out in like 2000, maybe 1999, something like that. Sort of a later N64 game. I love that lap steel sound on the N64. You hear it on Lon Lon's Ranch. That gives it that kind of country sound. And here he's using it as more like a hot lap steel player, really up-tempo, doing some like crazy riffs. And I think David Wise was wise to try to use a lot of different kind of elements of like a lot of different sounds from this one, from the N64, because you're going to end up with sometimes like maybe a bit of fatigue from the cheesiness of the N64 sounds, but he makes it sound like he's got this giant band with like now a little bit of this, a little bit of lap steel, a little bit of a kind of a guitar, a little bit of like an organ sound or something, just constantly trading off. It's really nice. Kind of has almost like a New Orleans sort of feel to it. Really swingy, bumping, lots of individual performers getting to shine. And then if you really wanted that New Orleans drumline sound, then right at the end, in the last verse, you have everybody solo at the same time, and it just sounds crazy. Is that New Orleans? Am I thinking of the right thing? I think so. Next up from Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Frosty Fruits, composed by motherfucking David Wise. 3 David Wise tracks in a row. The man is Christmas, isn't he? This one's chosen by Longbow. That's a very David Wise track. I guess David Wise likes to keep the sound that he's really known for more to Donkey Kong and keeping that sound as a Donkey Kong sound. And like here we're getting that big ambient sound. The chords and a lot of the instruments he uses, they sound like they could fit in a Metroid Prime soundtrack. And we have the very Christmassy bells, of course. I like that big gooey kind of rubber bass, the rubber synth. It's got that nice fluidity you can do on a synth. And just the melodies, and like everything is just so intricately placed, and the timing of the melody just like really get you moving and grooving with this like super bouncy feel of this track. Some classic David Wise. I like that we had to warm up to it, getting sort of these 3 other tracks before that are not quite what we were thinking of, or at least not quite what I think of when I think of David Wise. Next up, What the Hell is Monarch? A game that was released in 2021 and 2022 on the PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC. This is Premature Awakening, composed by Tsukasa Masuko, chosen by Rudi. Wow. Yeah, exactly. We got some Christmas chimes in there. It's got that warm, cozy kind of feeling, and even just those choir kind of, even just the harmony of that has sort of like a children's choir singing a Christmas carol kind of feel to it. It definitely, I thought it was an Atlas game for sure. The way it sounds like it could be from Persona or Shin Megami Tensei. Like you said, that laid back, funky, a lot of room, that really kind of bouncy fun funk. Oh, they're ex-Atlas devs. Okay, so this is their... Oh, I love when ex-devs go off and do their own thing. Because then you're thinking, oh, is this all the stuff you wanted to do but the publisher wouldn't let you? And now we get to see what you're really up to. And you can, and it's for like the fans as well. Well, it either goes two ways. It's either like, okay, we're just going to make what the fans of the original really initially fell in love with and just focus on that. Maybe the original game series got away from that, or they want to come up with new ideas. So it's pretty interesting. I haven't heard of it actually, but I haven't been paying as much attention to games ever since little baby came along. It's really taking up my time. All right, next up, shut up, Monarch. This is from Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury, released on the Switch in 2021. An expansion to the original Super Mario 3D World released on the Wii U way back in the day. We know Nintendo loves to try to make as much money as they can off their old Wii U games on the Nintendo Switch. They're good business people. This is Crisp Climb Castle, composed by James Phillipsen. Who's this Viking that got himself making tracks for Nintendo's biggest franchise? Claudio picked it. Asswipe Coliseum. What a nice track. Way to go, James Phillipsen. Going a little more formal, a ball, a gala, an ice skating rink. It definitely, yeah, like Daryl says, it's got the modern Mario sound. I think the modern Mario sound is like light orchestration that's light on its feet, has an elegance, but is also fun. Actually, a lot of modern Mario music could sound like it's set up right for Christmas. This one has the very obvious sleigh bells in the background because Nintendo's not gonna. I just think it fits. Like if you're gonna have an icy looking level, a snow level, they're gonna try to go for the most the warm way of presenting them. Which is really nice. It's a great loop too. Takes you on a nice long journey with the melody and resolves itself well, and just when you've had enough of it, it puts you right back at the beginning. I love the melody, like, really is growing on me the more I hear it. I love that opening bit. Ba-da-da-ba-ba. It's so, like, kind of curious. It's like there's a little snowbird, like, why don't you come over here? Why don't you come over here and rub my little woodpecker? What? Next up, from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, released on PC, this is Fireseeds, again composed by the great Jeremy Soule, chosen by Lachlan. Wow, that was really, really beautiful. It definitely has a sort of awakening, that beginning sound. Since the track is called Fireseeds, like it's probably scoring like a cutscene about seeds, watching them grow, and then burning everything to the ground. Just really takes its time, kind of waking things up, and just like surrounding his main melodies with so much great atmosphere, in almost like a minimalist way, but just the way that he layers things is so good. I love that Jeremy Soule, the way he kind of has the orchestra sort of like rumble, you know, it's like this, he has this way of creating these kind of like low swirling magical notes. It's like a little potion. Always reminds me of Morrowind. Next up, 20 points for Gryffindor, of course. We've got From Skies of Arcadia, this is Ice Dungeon, composed by Yutaka Minobe and Tatsuyuki Maeda, chosen by Chris, who never chooses Japanese composers. What the hell? Chris also submitted this an hour after I had already done all the prep work. But it's okay. Chris, you're worth it. What the fuck? It just went back to the beginning for some reason. Why does it go back right there every time? Oh, I see why. I see why. I use a loop feature to make them go back, and for some reason the loop was set to be lesser than the length of the song. I don't know why. Absolutely gorgeous song. I'm so sorry that the weird loop disrupted it. We did get to hear more of it, but it was right when it was kicking in. And it's weird when, if you just listen to the drums, it's very confusing as to what time signature it is. But if you listen to the piece as a whole, well, this is a bit harder to pick out. It's just a slow waltz. You can really tell when the bass comes in. So yeah, the bass. Now, a lot of times in jazz, the bass will keep the rhythm, and then the drums are allowed to kind of dance around that, which is totally different from rock, where bass is the rhythm, but the drums are not usually allowed to just fuck off and do their own thing. In jazz, the drums like be more artsy, dance around the bass. It's a really beautiful track. I love all the layers. It just sounds so crystalline and icy and just kind of like slow moving, and it's like there's all these different layers of ice above you, and like you can see your breath fogging up. That girl's not wearing any clothes. Finna fixing to get me a boner. Well, I'm glad Chris got his pick in, even if it was late. All right, moving on. That was everyone's first pick. 37 minutes in. Next up, from Secret of Mana, released on the SNES in 1993. This is A Wish, composed by Hiroki Kikuta, chosen by Cyflan. Wow. Very, very icy sounding, eh? I think it's the way that that note kind of fades in and wiggles and then just fades out. Sounds like a drop that has been just captured, frozen into an icicle. That sort of glinting, sparkling sound. No percussion. Just all wind instruments, very cold sounding. Yeah, it has a kind of resonating frequency. Really beautiful, very kind of yearning. This would be great in a string quartet. But I love even though it's an icy sound, it kind of has a warmth with that, whatever that is, like it's almost like, not an accordion, it's almost like one of those organs that you pump. The little boom, 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 boom. Beautiful. Wow, that's so similar. Stardew Valley winter theme. Yeah, a little too much. Next up, from Trials of Mana, following Secret of Mana, released in 1995. This is Another Winter, composed again by Hiroki Kikuta, chosen by ChiptuneBrony. Yeah, it's interesting the way they use that boom, 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 boom. Just the quarter notes there with that sort of like a really short kind of string sound with a lot of reverb on it. Boom, boom, boom. It's got this kind of like ploddingness to it, that it's just fast enough to be sort of steady and have some energy to it, but it gives it kind of like a thoughtful, almost like one person walking up the snowy trail to a mountain all by themselves. And then everything around them sort of being, I don't know, the things they see, the things that they're thinking about, the meditation of the journey. Boom, boom, boom. It's got a lot of hope to it, like an upward climb, an ascension. Pretty nice. Well, let's get back to it. From Final Fantasy XIV, released in 2013, this is Fealty, the track composed by Soken, S-O-K-E-N, chosen by Xenmas. Inevitability is a good way of putting it. It does sound like it is definitely building up. Dun, 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 dun. Just when it goes from those two chords back and forth, there's sort of like an intimidation aspect, and with that big, huge church organ underneath, it gives it that Castlevania epic feel. It's just those like two minor chords keeps going back and forth on. And the way the piano just kind of tinkles down, it's almost like the piano notes are being drained out of the bathtub. Eventually you'll have to get out of the bath and be cold. Next up, from Ragnarok Online, this is the Jingle Bells on Ragnarok, composed by SoundTEMP, chosen by Horky. Nice. Well, this SoundTEMP person or team or whatever the hell it is, they do such a good job of taking sequenced instruments, sampled instruments, but making them sound like real people are playing them and injecting the playing with a lot of personality and flair. Adding that little vibrato here and there just to make it sound like somebody's actually playing this. And they're just having a lot of fun with the Jingle Bell song and really chopping it up on the drums, kind of pushing and pulling, expanding on it, making it go a little half-time. It's a lot of fun. And this is one of those ones where it's an online game. They're going to have a Christmas event. You can actually directly make a Christmas song. Boom, boom, boom. Had a nice little lunch. I like the farty trumpets along with the synths. I think they sound really, really good together. Tons of personality. Really nice. Next up, from Snowboard Kids, this is Dizzyland, composed by Isao Kasai and Tomohiko Sato, chosen by Steve. And Steve has also chosen the gameplay video we're going to watch. Man, that is a monster of a track. What a great track for a sports game, a racing game. Also is inspired by the beginning of the Jingle Bells melody, starting off with those same notes, bum, 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 dun, 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 and then going a little crazy. I love that. It's like, sounds like little chickens or birds kind of pecking right in the background. So many of the sounds in this track might sound terrible on their own, but they're brought together and arranged really well, and together they form something really, really nice. It's really, really beautiful. There's so much like heroic emotion in this track. It's very inspirational. I loved it. Atlas Game. Atlas games have great music. Next up, from Spelunky, this is the Yeti Caves, composed by Eric Surke, chosen by Longbow. Wow. Swanky Caves. All right. I love that saxophone. It's like such a mellow, beautiful tone. Just the perfect choice. Used perfectly. It sounds like a real recording, too, which you wouldn't expect on a game that looks like it has a smaller indie budget. It's probably one of those things where they decided to spring for like a few... like you're not going to do the whole track recorded live. Or maybe whoever composed this is a saxophone player. Sometimes that happens, and then they're able to record the stuff live because they can kind of cut the cost that way. That'd be my guess. Eric Suruka might play the sax. It's got such a this kind of 1970s, really kind of golden time of like yacht rocky, kind of super relaxed, swinging. Everything's gonna be all right. FM gold. Yeah, restaurant Christmas time. It's got just warm, cheery, cozy, and just that big open, funky swinging beat. Like, it's got kind of like a nice heavy kick and snare to it to propel it along, but other than that, nothing else is really putting out too much hard energy. All right, well, next up from The Adventures of Lomax, the Amazon Forest. This is Lemmings of the Leaves, composed by Philip Morris. This is a game that Rudy got for Christmas. Didn't play, but now he thinks as he's older, maybe should have given it a chance. Well, let's give it a chance right now. That is pretty gorgeous. A big, huge reggae rhythm. A really silky bass. Boom, 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 boom. Kind of like a reggaeton track, actually. Just like a faster reggae, but not ska. Christmas in the Jungle. Big woody flutes. That really ambient synth just sort of washing through. I'll have a look at this game, too. It's when you think about what they thought they would do with games back then. This must have been an early PlayStation game where they were still thinking in terms of like hand-drawn, pixely. Hand-drawn just sounds so good, eh? But all the games were hand-drawn back then. Just taking what would have been like a mascot game on the Super Nintendo, side-scrolling platformer, and then bumping up how much animation you can have, how many frames of animation. Look how silky smooth it is when he does that spin. Super bright colors. And then this crazy good CD quality track that sounds like a lot of live instruments recorded. Maybe a few loops here and there for the bass. Wasn't as easy or as common to loop music and have electronic music back then. And they were just so excited, I think, that you could record on a CD and put it into a game that a lot of people were just recording as much stuff as they could, right? So nice. Next up, from Bravely Default 2, released in 2021 on the Switch, this is Remechdal, composed by Yasuo Kamanaka, in brackets, Revo, chosen by Claudio. Yeah, definitely incorporating that James Bond, taking the fifth note of the scale, just raising it up and down. Really nice track. Definitely has a Christmas feel with the jingling rhythm, like Daryl saying, the background ostinato arpeggios. Yeah, it sounds like some kind of a synth, eh? I mean, this is really, really well put together. I like the really kind of muted horns in there, too. They just add a nice kind of like glistening kind of a punch right in the middle. Just with all the synth stuff surrounding it. It's mixed really well. Almost kind of has like a bit of a Spanish feel for those trumpets. Next up, from Mario Kart DS, this is Rainbow Friggin' Road. Composed by Shinobu Nagata. Chosen by Lachlan. Mario's going to pinch your butt. Interesting. So yeah, a lot of the modern Mario games, they use a lot of that synth bass. A lot of the Mario games use it for boss battles, like especially mini boss battles. I mean, Rainbow Road is basically like the boss level of Mario Kart. But it ends up letting you play bass really fast and having a lot of attack, and you can really hear every single note. And you can hear every note very clearly, and gives it a bit of like propulsion and action to it. I like the melodies and sort of the higher bits to it. I like the way they work together, and kind of like a little bit of melody. Hold it here. Just kind of effortlessly goes through. It's got a really kind of... I like the way the melody works. It kind of sounds like the way they do those little melody bits and then kind of slide into them, hold. It kind of sounds like a cart power sliding around. Really nice. And that's so Mario Kart. So triumphant. From Spyro 2, this is Crystal Glacier, composed by Stuart Copeland, the drummer from The Police, chosen by Chris. Such a cool sound Stuart Copeland has. A lot of layered... Obviously, there's a lot of layered rhythms, but the way that he kind of makes all the instruments, he sort of plays them like drums. Boom, 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 boom. I love that part. I mean, I'd say that it's a compliment, but all the Spyro songs, they tend to have a really similar sound. You always know it's from a Spyro game. They're doing their own thing. And I won't hold it against it, because the thing that they're doing is really, really done well. And it's not like, as you're playing through a Spyro game, you're not getting bored of the soundtrack. There's enough variation there to keep it interesting. And I'm sure if you were a drummer or like a full percussionist or a rhythm person, maybe there would be so many differences to it. Maybe me coming at it from a non-drummer point of view, it sounds more similar to me, but I still really like it. Next up, we've got a little track from Terraria. Cute little Terraria. This is Frost Moon, composed by Scott Lloyd Shelley, chosen by Horky. Yeah, you know, when you first hear that opening bit, it's almost like a gent style heavy metal chugging. I think, oh, it's just going to be like so over the top and obnoxious, but it ends up being like quite tastefully done. Some just like brings in his guitar, lets the bass shine. It's not just constant. It's not just like 4 minutes of double kick guitar and bass chugging around. Chugging around? I was going to say chugging away. Chugging around. A bit too much taking at first, perhaps? Christmas, classical cinema, metal, and then Terraria. Yeah, well, like when I think of Terraria, I think of the total opposite of this. Like, Terraria's got some of the most relaxing, chill, ambient, twinkly synth music. But I could see that if you spent, hundreds of hours playing Terraria and building and digging deep and, doing your thing, watching your numbers go up and exploring and relaxing, and then all of a sudden you do this Christmas event and these like crazy Santa Claus dressed tanks start coming at you, and then they play the song. It would be a pretty hilarious moment. Well, our last track of a monster episode. This one is chosen by Claudio, composed by Tomoya Tomita. These are the Snowy Fields on a game released on the Wii in 2010. This is Kirby's Epic Yarn.